There was once a very handsome, very charming, very beautiful prince who all the ladies loved. But he did not love all the ladies. He loved no one. He didn't know the meaning of the word love. He went around town breaking hearts left, right and centre. And then one day he broke the heart of the wrong young lady. This lady knew a little witchcraft, and she decided to give him a taste of his own medicine. So she concocted a potion made up of inside-out juice, a little hint of redemption, an ounce of justice, and just a touch of humility. She crept into his castle where he was dining a young lady, and she poured the potion into his drink. He took a sip, and no sooner had he done so than his eyes turned red, his back creaked over, black hairs came out of every single pore, thick black hairs, horns from his head, his nose spread across his face, and fangs out of his mouth that was now a snout. The girl took one look at him and scarpered. And then the fairy told the prince the only way he could break the spell would to be find a young lady that would marry him just as he was, a beast. The beast took a look in the mirror, and when he saw his own reflection, he realized he would never find a woman that would marry him. So he broke every mirror in the house, and he closed himself off from the world forever. Now, some time later, there was a merchant who was down on his luck. He had done some bad business deals, and he was desperate to get the one business deal that would bring him back up to being moneyed. He had 3 daughters. The 2 eldest were selfish and greedy. And when he went off to do some business, they said to him, "Daddy, you better bring me back a nice dress." And the second one said, "Daddy, get me the nicest shoes. None of those cheap ones. I want the nicest shoes. Bring them back for me." The merchant agreed, and he turned to his youngest daughter and he said to her, "Beauty, what would you like?" Now, his youngest daughter, whose name was Beauty, was kind-hearted and beautiful. She turned to her father and she said, "I don't need anything. Just bring me back a flower, a rose." And so he agreed, and off he went to do his business, which did not go well. But he managed to get the dress and he managed to get the shoes. And he was on his way back through a deep, dark wood when he remembered the flower. So he thought he'd just have a look around. And he got deeper and deeper into the woods, but no flower could be found. And then the clouds started to thicken. And it started to become dark. And raindrops began falling faster and faster, and the wind was blowing, and the lightning began to strike, and he was lost in the middle of a dark, strange wood, in the middle of a storm. And then he saw a light in the middle of this wood, and he followed it. And when he got to the light, he realized there was a stable with hay all laid out, and the horse just walked straight in and started eating. And then he saw next to the stable there was a big castle. So he went into the castle. "Hello," he said. There was no sound. No one came. But on the dining room table, there was a beautiful, succulent meal spread out for one. The merchant sat down and waited, but no one came. He got hungrier and hungrier, so eventually he began to eat, and it was so delicious. And he ate until he was full. And when he had had enough, a light came on through the hallway, so he followed it. And then a light on the staircase, so he followed that, and a light on the landing, so he followed that, until he reached a bedroom. And in that bedroom was a beautiful laid-out bed with a chocolate on the pillow. The merchant began to feel very sleepy, so he went to sleep. And he slept brilliantly. And in the morning he woke up, and there was a cup of hot chocolate waiting for him. The merchant decided this must be the house of a fairy. So he called out to the fairy, "Thank you! Thank you so much for your kindness. I will be on my way." And he left. And as he was taking the horse out, he remembered the flower. And it just so happened there was a garden in this castle. And it just so happened that in that garden there was a rose bush, beautiful red roses. So the merchant jumped off the horse and grabbed one of the roses, got back on the horse, and was just about to leave when he heard an almighty roar. "How dare you!" came the roar. And looked behind him, and coming up behind him was a dark beast with black hair and horns and red eyes and fangs. The merchant rode and rode and rode, trying to get away from the beast, but he wasn't quick enough. The beast caught him. "I gave you kindness and a place to stay, and this is how you repay me." The merchant apologised profusely. "I'm sorry, I just needed a rose for my daughter, Beauty." The beast sat back on his haunches. "Daughter?" he said. The merchant said, "Yes, my youngest, Beauty. She wanted a flower so much." "Your daughter? Is she very beautiful?" said the beast. The merchant nodded, because of course she was. "Very well," said the beast. "Bring me your daughter, and I won't kill you." Now the merchant had no intention of giving his daughter to the beast, but he wanted to get away, so he agreed. And he got on his horse and he was just riding away when he heard, "Bring her to me within 8 days, or I will kill you." The merchant rode off, and the beast went back into the castle. Now when the merchant got home, the 2 eldest daughters didn't notice that he was upset or bothered about anything. They just wanted their dress and their shoes. But Beauty saw her father was upset and said to him, "What's wrong?" And he told her. And the 2 eldest daughters listened, and then they turned on their youngest sister. "It's your fault," they said. "You had to be so precious that you wanted a rose. And now our father's going to die, and it's all your fault, and you're not even crying." And Beauty wasn't crying. Not a tear came from her eye. She turned to her sisters and she said, "Why would I cry? My father's not going to die. I will go to the beast's palace." And her father didn't want her to, and he tried and tried and tried to convince her otherwise, but Beauty was resolute. She got on her horse and she rode into the woods and she found that castle. Now she expected, when she got there, to be thrown into prison. But instead, she found she had her own apartments, and above it said Beauty's apartments. There were beautiful rooms full of dresses and clothes for her, and a whole room full of books, and Beauty loved books. And she was expecting not to be given anything to eat, but instead, huge, wonderful meals were laid out for her. And she was expecting to be bored out of her brain, but instead she was entertained with the sweetest, loveliest music you could ever hear. She looked around, but she could not see anyone playing, but it gently came to her ears. And she ate her meal. And after she had finished her meal, and it was a very good meal, she got the impression that there was somebody in the shadows. The beast, she thought. And he had shown her such kindness that she said, "Please come out, let me meet you." And so out padded the beast. Beauty couldn't help herself. When she saw his hideousness, she gasped, and then she saw the beast recoil at her horror. "I'm sorry," she said. I didn't mean to. Please join me." And so the beast sat with Beauty, and they talked and they talked and they talked. And she found that he was actually a very kind-hearted, nice beast. And then it was bedtime. And the beast turned and he was just leaving the room. And suddenly he stopped, and he turned back to Beauty and he said, "Beauty, will you be my wife?" Now Beauty looked at the beast, and although she thought that he was a good, kind creature, and although she thought that she could love him as a friend, she just did not see him like that. "I'm sorry," she said. "I have to be honest. My answer is no." And the beast's shoulders sagged, and his head dropped, and he sighed and he left the room. Now time went on, and every day Beauty was allowed to do whatever she wanted in the castle, read as many books, listen to as much music, ride the horses, whatever she desired. And every night she would have a beautiful meal laid out for her. And after she had finished the meal, the beast would come and they would talk, and they became friends, and they became happy and contented in each other's company. But then one day, the beast came to Beauty after her meal and she was crying. "What's wrong?" he said. She looked up to him with tears in her eyes and she said, "Last night I had a dream. I dreamt my father was dead." The beast heard these words, and no sooner had he done so than he ran off, disappeared. And then he was back, and with him he had a mirror. He gave the mirror to Beauty and he said, "Beauty, look in that mirror and ask to see your father." So she did. And suddenly she saw her father in the mirror. He was at his house. He was asleep in bed. He was not dead, but he was sick, very sick. "Oh no," said Beauty. "I know there's no chance for me to see him, but if there was a way, if I could just see him, just one more time before he dies." Now the beast had fallen absolutely and completely and utterly in love with Beauty. And when a man is in love, he can not say no. So he agreed. "Okay, you can go. Do you promise to come back?" Beauty promised. Do you promise to come back within 8 days? Beauty promised to come back within 8 days. Very well, he said, and he gave her a ring. Put this on your finger tonight when you go to bed, and tomorrow morning you will wake up in your father's house. When you want to come back to me, take the ring off and put it on your bedside table. So that's what she did. She put the ring on that night, and when she woke up she was in her father's house. And there was cheering and delight that she was well, and her father was so happy to see her that he felt slightly better, and he got up out of bed. And Beauty stayed and nursed her father, and day after day after day he got better. And day after day and after day her sisters got nastier and meaner and more jealous, until they decided, we are going to scupper that girl's happiness. And they came up with a plan. They took onions and they rubbed them in their eyes on the 8th day when Beauty was about to leave. They came running out with their hair all messed up, and they said, please don't go, please, we can't bear it, you'll break our hearts. And Beauty, who was so kind-hearted and couldn't bear to cause anyone pain, agreed to stay another day, and another day more, and another day more, until it was a week, 2 weeks, until her sisters got bored and went to town. And then Beauty remembered the beast, and that she had broken her promise. She ran up to her room and she grabbed the magic mirror and she said, show me the beast. And there was the beast in his garden, dead. Oh no, said Beauty. She dropped the mirror and she ran out. She couldn't wait for nightfall, so she jumped on her horse and she rode and rode and rode all the way to the beast's castle. And there he was, lying in the garden. He wasn't quite dead, but he was barely alive. She ran to the river and she got some water and she put it over his head. Please don't die, she said. Please, I want to be your wife. And no sooner had she said those words than the beast began to transform back into the handsome prince he always was. The black, thick hair turned into golden ringlets, the red eyes into blue, and the fangs into a beautiful smile. He was back to being the handsome prince, but there was one difference. He was now just as beautiful on the inside as he was on the outside. And Beauty and him got married. And I don't know if they lived happily ever after, but I hope so.